Today, eyeglasses are so ordinary that we barely notice them. But behind this simple object lies one of the most transformative inventions in human history. An invention so powerful that it extended careers, preserved knowledge, fueled scientific revolutions, and once upon a time was used in complete secrecy. Our story begins in the dim halls of medieval monasteries where monks struggled to copy sacred manuscripts, and where the first users of eyeglasses tried to hide that they needed them. Human eyesight has a built-in expiration date. Around the age of 40, the lens inside the eye stiffens, making it harder to focus on close objects. Today we call this presbyopia. In the Middle Ages, this wasn't just an inconvenience. For monks who copied books line by line, it was devastating. A single mistake could ruin months of work. When their eyes weakened, many monks could no longer perform the task that defined their lives. The surprising part is this. Eyeglasses are not as ancient as many think. They appeared suddenly between 1280 and 1300 in northern Italy, especially in Pisa and Venice. And although legends claim a man named Salvino d'Armato invented them, historians agree this story is fabricated. The true inventor remains unknown. Most likely, eyeglasses were created by skilled Italian craftsmen with a deep understanding of glassmaking and early optics. So why were monks the first people to adopt eyeglasses? Because they were among the few who could read. Manuscript copying took place in quiet rooms called scriptoriums. Hours, days, even years were spent writing sacred texts. Eyeglasses suddenly gave aging monks a second life. They could work again, read again, serve again. But there was a problem. Wearing eyeglasses was seen as a sign of physical weakness. So many monks used them privately, away from the eyes of their peers. The real explosion of eyeglasses began in Venice. Murano, the island famous for its glassmakers, produced lenses of extraordinary clarity. Their craftsmanship made eyeglasses reliable, desirable, and tradable. The industry grew so important that the Venetian government forbade glassmakers from leaving the island to protect trade secrets. The earliest eyeglasses were nothing like what we wear today. Called rivet spectacles, they had two round lenses connected by a small metal pin. There were no arms, no temples, nothing to hold them in place. People either pinched them on the nose or simply held them with their fingers. Awkward? Yes. But for someone who couldn't read anymore, they were a miracle. Within the church, eyeglasses took on a symbolic meaning. Reading was considered a divine gift, and eyeglasses became associated with intelligence and spiritual authority. Yet the irony persisted. Monks wanted the wisdom associated with glasses, but feared looking physically weak. So eyeglasses carried both prestige and embarrassment. Before eyeglasses, the Romans used an object called a reading stone. It was a rounded piece of glass placed directly on top of text to enlarge it. Helpful, yes, but far from practical. Eyeglasses changed everything by bringing the lens to the face, freeing the hands, and allowing continuous reading. Surprisingly, the science that made eyeglasses possible didn't come from Europe. The foundation of modern optics was written by the Muslim scientist Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as Al-Hazan. His 11th century book of optics explained how light travels, bends, and focuses. European scholars later studied his work, and Italian craftsmen began applying his principles to glass. Without Al-Hazan's theories, eyeglasses might never have existed. One of the most overlooked effects of eyeglasses is how they change the workforce. Before glasses, age 40 meant the end of detailed work. After glasses, people could work into their 60s. Productivity rose. Experience mattered more, and entire professions from scribes to craftsmen were transformed. Not everyone liked the idea of eyeglasses. Some religious leaders argued that correcting vision was unnatural. If God made your eyesight weak, they said, you should accept it. But practicality beat ideology. People needed to read, to work, to function. Eyeglasses stayed and spread. By the 1300s, a new figure appeared in European cities, the street eyeglass peddler. They carried boxes filled with lenses of different strengths, letting customers test them on the spot. These merchants were the ancestors of today's opticians. Renaissance painters loved eyeglasses. They used them as symbols of intelligence, learning, and sometimes even arrogance. They also used glasses themselves to paint finer details. As art improved, so did the popularity of spectacles. It might surprise you, but glasses for nearsighted people, those who struggle to see far away, weren't invented until the 15th century. Why so late? Because people noticed near vision problems long before distance ones. Reading makes presbyopia obvious. Myopia doesn't. By the 1400s, European workshops competed fiercely. Cities like Florence, Nuremberg, and Venice raced to create clearer, thinner, more precise lenses. This competition drove optical science forward at remarkable speed. One invention changed everything that came after it. Without eyeglasses, there would be no telescope, no microscope, no scientific revolution. Galileo, Kepler, and countless others built their instruments on the technology that began with simple reading glasses. In the 17th and 18th centuries, eyeglasses became fashionable. Wealthy nobles commissioned frames made of gold, silver, and tortoiseshell. Glasses were no longer a shameful necessity, but a status symbol. Late in the 1700s, a breakthrough arrived. Glasses with arms, called temples, that rested on the ears. At last, eyeglasses stayed in place without hands. This design became the ancestor of every modern pair we wear today. Over time, eyeglasses shaped culture. A person with glasses was seen as thoughtful, educated, even philosophical. This association became so strong that some people who didn't need glasses wore them just for the look, a trend that continues today. So, how did eyeglasses begin? As a secret tool in the hands of aging monks, and eventually as a device that opened the door to scientific discovery. A tiny piece of glass suddenly doubled human capability, allowing us to read longer, work longer, and understand more. From monasteries to laboratories to every desk in the modern world. Eyeglasses didn't just help us see, they helped us move forward.